Welcome back everybody to Razzpuytin Gaming Presents. This is a new entry in our Greedfall Platinum Trophy Guide. Some hints about how to get through it if you're looking for the Platinum Trophy, especially since the hardest difficulty, Nightmare difficulty, is quite difficult and has some real difficulty curves that can be difficult to surmount, especially when you start fighting the Guardians and the tougher Guardians near the end of the game. Number one, don't forget to abuse the arena for experience points. So you're introduced fairly early in the game to the arena, and there's a legendary weapon at the end once you've completed all the trials in the arena. And there's 5 levels with 3 to 4 combat rounds in each one. But you don't have to advance the combat after you complete each combat round. So if you're in level 1, you can repeat round 1 if you want. You can just go to round 2, round 3, and you can repeat level 1 all over if you would like. It's a good way to grind trophies. I think I showed that in my very last video, the mop-up video for the game. To get some of the trophies in the combat arts that you are not specializing in, you'll need to do some work in the arena to get those. So that's something to remember. Don't forget to abuse the arena for XP. Number 2, don't skip ability shrines. Almost every map you go to has an ability shrine in it. Free skill points. And you should grab those skill shrines every time you go to a map. You need to try and find where those are. And you should be fully exploring anyways if you're trying to get the Platinum Trophy, because you have to find all the camps on every level. The skill altars are not required for a trophy, but they can help you get more powerful quicker in the game if you find those. So those are free points, and you should not let those go. Most of them, the skill altars, are kind of hidden from view, but they can be gotten to quite easily. They're not guarded by guardians or anything like that. So they can be picked up fairly easy throughout the game. I would not suggest running from map to map early in the game trying to find those. The combat will be a little bit too difficult and you won't be powerful enough to do that. Number 3, you don't want to run with the same skill companions. So if you're following my guide and you're doing a magic build, you would not be helping yourself by having Petrus be one of your main companions, because he is a magic only companion. You would definitely want to run with Kurt as one of your companions, because he's melee and he can help. If you get him the right gear, he can help stun the monsters, even the boss monsters, for you, and keep them occupied with some area of effect and running in on some monsters. Then you'll want to run if you're still running the magic, you'll want to run one of the hybrid companions, either Vasco or Ciora, to complement, because they have either a little bit of firearms or magic with melee. So you can take advantage of a synergy in skill sets that way. If you're running a melee build, you definitely don't want to run Kurt, because he's just duplicating your effort and you're going to create some issues that way. And you would most likely want to run Petrus as one of your companions, because his magic component is a good backup for you, and magic damage is not abated by armor. So that's a good point there. And then just run one of the hybrid, most likely Vasco or Ciora, similar to the magic build. And if you're on the tech build side with firearms and bombs and stuff, you definitely don't want to be running with Afra, because she has that same build as well. So she's not complementary. In that case, you would want to run Petrus and Kurt, because those are the 2 items you don't have, magic and melee. And that will complement you as well. So it's important to have the right companion mix for what you are trying to accomplish. Definitely the case in the Guardians that you want to have Kurt as often as you can, because he'll stay up on the Guardians and start smacking them. It can be a little tough in his starting armor until you get him some better armor. With a couple of the Guardians, there's some with some swoop abilities, and one near the end of the game that you fight a couple times with a jump ability that can one-shot you. those are tough for him to continue to combat. And if you are finding that the Guardians are quite difficult to maintain some melee presence on, then you should switch to the full hybrid companions. So you'll want to choose between Afra, Vasco, and Ciara so that you can get a mix of firearms and magic and a little bit of melee in there while you can. So it's important to have the right mix of companions to help you along as well. And along since we're talking about companions, the other thing you want to do with them is you want to make sure that you are upgrading their gear, especially on the nightmare difficulty. Make sure that you're keeping them in the best armor possible. Whatever armor they can wear, they're limited by their ability scores as well, which level up when they level up, but not nearly as quick as yours. But it's really important to put them in the best armor possible for their survivability. The longer they're alive, the more DPS they'll do, and the more likely that they can occupy other enemies. Especially with the non-guardian enemies, they can wind up fighting a couple of enemies at the same time. So if they have the armor to survive it, it'll keep you in good shape. So that's important as well. And then you'll want to upgrade their combat arm, whatever it is, whether it's two-handed weapon in Kurt's case, or a ring in Petrus's case, or a single blade weapon for Vasco and Ciara, or a firearm for Afra. Because if you're running complementary companions, they should not be needing the same gear that you need. So it should be fine for you to give them really good gear, even legendary gear if you need. If you check out some of my builds, you'll see that I'm not afraid to give them legendary gear that I can't use or doesn't help me and would help them. Number 4. So with this particular boss, I want to say don't be afraid to cheese him. There is a way that you can defeat this boss easily enough. So if you stick yourself back in these woods in deep enough, he can only follow you in part way, and his jump attack becomes not usable for him anymore. He'll stop using it, and that's the thing that can one-shot you. So really his only attacks then are some melee attacks on your companion and the fire burst attack, which you can dodge easily enough. But even on nightmare difficulty, considering the damage it does, if you have enough healing potions with you, you can just stand in there and take it and just keep pounding him with your magic. If you have a melee build, that is not going to work on this guy. But if you're running a tech build, or especially if you're running a magic build, it is an easy way to cheese this boss and defeat him easily enough. In my second platinum playthrough of Greedfall, I cheesed this boss just to get through him quicker. You probably saw in my video walkthrough guides that I did struggle with him on nightmare difficulty in my first playthrough. But in the second one, I just went ahead and cheesed him, and I blew through him in one try. It was really cheese. So don't be afraid to make the game easier for you if you want, even on nightmare difficulty. I did it because that boss in particular is difficult to beat. He's got that one shot attack which makes it really difficult on you. So number 5, don't forget to pump up your charisma and your intuition, especially on the hardest difficulties. Both those will get you through some conversations without having to deal with the extra combat. If you like the combat and you don't mind it, and you don't mind losing a couple times, or if you're a get good kind of player and can blow through that, then hey, maybe you don't need both charisma and tuition. You can just run with one of those. But getting through those dialogue options with charisma or intuition also yield you the experience points that you would gain from the combat. Combat is a slow way to gain XP, by the way. You get most of your XP by finishing quests. So it's important to get through those quests as quick and clean as you can and gather up the XP that way. So don't be afraid. Also, your companions can give you boosts, and your gear can give you boosts. There's a cloak you can purchase early in the game that adds 1 to your charisma. So if you already have 1 in charisma, you'll now have 2. And 2 is pretty much going to get you through, 65, 70% of the game without any troubles. Getting that 3rd point just makes it all that much easier. You get through about 95% of the game. There's still some charisma checks that you won't get 100% for even with 3 in your charisma. Also, if you're on the highest difficulty, you'll want to put some work into blacksmithing unless you plan to go to a blacksmith in the city and buy your upgrades to your gear. You're actually not crafting gear, you're crafting upgrade to your gear. But the purple upgrades can get pretty expensive. So if you can do it yourself, you can save yourself some troubles. Kurt is the companion that gives you in blacksmithing. If you're in good shape with him on friendly terms, that'll give you a boost as well. The other one you might consider, the science skill boosted up, especially on the nightmare difficulty, because you need the magic potions for the fights with the guardians, you need the health potions. And it's just easier if you're out collecting the mats and you just, every time you go to a camp or a residence, that you just produce a bunch of those. Nightmare difficulty, I usually ran with 20 of each just to make sure I was covered in all things. So that's something important that you want to make sure is that you're picking up the right skills. I definitely advise to do not forget to pump up charisma and intuition. And the last one, don't bother to boost lockpicking beyond level 1. And you may not even need level 1 if you already have the Cat Burglar trophy from your easy playthrough. There are quite a number of chests that do have some pretty decent gear in it at level 1, but considering how infrequently you get those kind of talent points, I would not spend them on lockpicking. Getting lockpicking to level 3 is not going to yield you any special gear. So that's it with this particular guide. Those are my 6 things to don't do in Greedfall to help you excel at the game. I hope you all do well with it. Feel free to drop a comment in the section if you need any help or advice getting through Greedfall. As I mentioned, I've platinumed the game twice, once on PS4, once on PS5. So I have extensive knowledge of how to get through the game in good shape, and am more than happy to share my knowledge and experience with people. So with all that being said, you guys take care out there. I really appreciate you having you guys along. Don't forget to friend and follow us on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, like the videos, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a bunch. We've been adding quite a few, couple hundred subscribers over the last couple weeks. Would really appreciate some more subscribes as I'm trying to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark, 4 digits. Yes, working on that. So appreciate all your support with that. In the meantime, you guys take care and be safe out there, and we will catch you next time.